checking in here. I'm about to head into one of my most anticipated movies of the year. My hype level is high. I'm trying to keep expectations in check. Into the Spider-Verse, one of my favorite comic book movies ever. Is this gonna pay off? Let's do it.
I feel exuberated. I understand the meaning of life. Does the multiverse exist? All of those questions will be answered today.
Want to see some pop figures? What's up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. I have seen the sequel to Into the Spider-Verse. I have seen the light, and today we are talking Across the Spider-Verse, the sequel to one of my absolute favorite animated films of all time. You saw my reaction. Here's my review. Miles Morales catapults across the multiverse where he encounters a team of spider people charged with protecting its very existence. When the heroes clash on how to handle a new threat, Miles must redefine what it means to be a hero. Here we go. This movie is rated PG. It has sequences of animated action violence, some language and thematic elements, and I'll be honest, this is one of the darker PG, not PG-13 movies I've seen in quite a while. So you may want to look into what is in the film before you take your young 4 to 5-year-old. That being said, while it is dark and we're dealing with some very important things here, 1 or 2 cuss words, I do believe it's a movie for the entire family. I think every family is going to be different, but I do feel as if some parents will walk out going, well, wish I wouldn't have taken my 3-year-old.
A child.
And we know what Into the Spider-Verse did. It changed the game when it comes to animation. It changed the game when it comes to comic book storytelling. Not even specifically Spider-Man storytelling. I look at Into the Spider-Verse and I say, that's a comic book movie with comic book panels being brought to life. Yeah, we saw it with the early 2000s Hulk film, but this one obviously does it a lot better. And then when you look at Across the Spider-Verse, I mean, it's been 5 years since Into the Spider-Verse, and I didn't think this one had a chance of topping it. And I don't even want to start off this review by making comparisons. I want to talk about the fact that this is just as much of a Gwen story as it is a Miles story. We get a beautiful look into kind of where she came from at the beginning, but also how she's reeling from the events from Into the Spider-Verse, so I thought that was great, and it's not like we spend 5 minutes on it. We're there for 10 to 15 minutes, and then we get about 20 minutes of where Miles is in his life. So I guess one of the complaints you're going to see is how it's not the most action-packed movie in the first act, but I actually didn't mind that, and I actually really like the fact that we establish where they are, and it's a much smaller scale movie at the beginning than it is where we go in the final act, which is one of the coolest final acts of a comic book movie you are ever going to see. We're going to talk about that. By the way, there is a dog with me. Minnie, hello, say hello. Say hello to the people. You don't love me! And so yeah, the focus is split between the two, but I never felt like the story was disjointed. I never felt as if it was choppy storytelling. It always felt like each integral moment with the character meant something, and that's how you want to feel with a comic book movie. I haven't felt that since Guardians Volume 3, but before that, it's been a while. But you know, at some point, they're going to meet back up, and when they do, the chemistry between the two, between Miles and Gwen, and really between the two performers, and you know, they're probably not in the recording booth with each other. I'm not for sure on that, but it feels like they are. It feels they're staring at each other deep in the eyes and delivering their lines, and that's how incredible their voices are. And I'm forever going to associate Hailee Steinfeld with Gwen Stacy, Spider-Woman. I'm forever going to associate Shameik Moore with Miles Morales because their voices are so incredible behind these versions of the characters. But there are a lot more characters at play here. I think the notable one is Spider-Man 2099, voiced by Oscar Isaac, who gives one of his best blockbuster-y performances I've ever seen. He was amazing as Moon Knight, but I think this character is just as compelling, especially when they start to reveal the motivations behind what he's doing and the interaction, specifically with Miles Morales, kind of bring out his true nature, his true intent. And it's when all is revealed with the plot. So you're going to associate his character in your mind when this movie starts to, and this is going to sound bad, unravel, but I mean the plot, because there are a lot of tangled webs. I'm using a lot of Spider-Man metaphors here.
Oh, good for you!
But once those things start to become more clear, you will associate that with his character because he is the one that is integral to it all, and the impact without Oscar Isaac's voice, I think, would have been great, but with Oscar Isaac's voice, He's one of my new favorite villainous characters in an animated movie, and we're going to see even more of him in Beyond the Spider-Verse for sure. Then obviously you have somebody like a Peter B. Parker, who is a little bit of a different character this time around. I feel like he took a lot of what Miles said in the first movie to heart with this little child, and there's so much to that story, and we actually get to see more with him as the movie goes. That was great. I think Jake Johnson does an amazing job as the character, but I mentioned Spider-Woman. Issa Rae is Jessica Drew. Daniel Kaluuya plays Hobie. And anytime Gwen Stacy is talking about Hobie, you're going to want to buckle up because those are some hilarious moments. Andy Samberg is Ben Reilly. Karan Soni is Spider-Man India. Amanda Stenberg is Margot Kess. And Jason Schwartzman is the Spot. As soon as you hear the voice, you immediately associate that to his face. It's like, all right, we're in for a ride here. And the character starts out as an absolute joke. But where this character goes, how he ties in to Miles' story and the actual impactful nature of what he's doing that may not be fully felt in this movie. And we're slowly getting into, I think, one of the big negatives that people are going to have. We still feel him in this film. I still felt him.
That's what she said.
Great voice. He's a great character. But I keep mentioning the cliffhanger at the end of this movie. It is very definitively a part one. And I knew it was a part one, but I still, even knowing that going in, it doesn't say part one in the title. I'm thinking, we're going to wrap this story up and we're going to go beyond the Spider-Verse next year. Well, that's not the case. This is a cliffhanger, maybe the cliffhanger of all animated cliffhangers you will ever see. And I had some people walking out of my theater. First of all, I think a lot of people were stunned when the movie ended. I heard multiple groups just like, oh my God, like that was so much at once, but in the best way possible. But some people walked out like, we're not going to see the conclusion until 2025. And I'm sitting here going, actually, it's 2024, you guys. And they're like, dude, shut up.
Just shut up, you idiot.
But it is a cliffhanger. And if part 3 botches it, which at this point I don't think it's going to happen, but if it botches it, it's going to make this film feel lesser, maybe less significant. And that's so unfortunate that we could not conclude a lot of these, or really any of these storylines in this film, maybe one or two, but you're going to be left on edge. So I don't know how everyone's going to feel about that. I'm absolutely okay with it. I love the fact that we are just hanging by a thread. Is that another Spider-Man pun? I think so. Boo! It's not everyone's cup of tea. And I think some people are going to fault the writing for that. They're going to fault the story for that. Or they could be faulting Sony for that. And, if the next movie, there's rumors that we could be getting some live action elements. I don't know. I have no insight into that. But if it is like almost all live action, one, you're going to lose that animated magic. Two, I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know.
I don't know.
Regardless, other than that complaint, the only other thing I could think of is that this film is a lot of story, a lot of plot, a lot of jokes and gags that you will miss if you're not paying attention. And what other movie do I feel that way about? Well, my mind immediately goes to the Lego Movie, one of the fastest paced animated films that I've ever seen. And Lord and Miller were involved with that. Lord and Miller are involved with this, obviously. But I love that style. I love that style when it can keep up with itself and it allows the audience to keep up with it. And I believe this movie does that. Again, you're never bored with this film because there's so much going on, but you're never confused. You're never lost. You're always engaged. Maybe one or two too many stories for some, but it didn't bother me because there's so much excitement coming from each individual thread and storyline. And you prominently see many Spider-Men, Spider-Women, Spider-Animals come into play, and they choose to focus on certain characters, and that's absolutely okay. I don't need to see each and every character. The amount of Easter eggs and cameos in this video, I don't know how you're going to do it. Heavy spoiler. How are you going to do it, heavy spoilers? I don't know, because there are so many Easter eggs in this movie. Does that matter when it comes to quality? Absolutely not. But when you're so excited about everything else that's happening and you're loving the story, you're loving the characters, and then you get all the Easter eggs, it's just the cherry on top, baby. It's just the whipped cream and then the cherry and then you... I'm hyper. I need to chill.
You need to get your head in the game! Get your head in the game! Come on!
I've spent too long being a snob. Let's talk about the absolute best part of this movie, and that's the visuals. But before we do that, if you guys go into that description down below, you will find a link. That link will take you to eWin Racing, and they have some of the best gaming chairs in the business. I did a sponsored video last week. You can find all of the information there, but as of now, go to that link, use my discount, 20% off, and the code is Austin Burke. They didn't ask me to do this, but I'm shouting them out again, man, because I can. Never before has animation played such an integral role in a story, and I mean that in general. I'm talking all of the classic Disney movies, I'm talking Into the Spider-Verse, and it's not me saying that this animation is better and nothing's ever going to top this, blah, blah, blah. I'm not even talking visually. I'm talking about the way that it's used within the narrative. Not only going to different worlds and different universes and seeing a distinct animation style for each one. And the producers came out and said, oh, we have this many. We're probably not going to see all of those until once Beyond comes out. And then we're going to be able to sit back and look at the scope and scale of what the animators did. And I think those are the real heroes of this story. The art style and animation in Across the Spider-Verse is revolutionary. It has changed the comic book movie genre, and hopefully it will never be the same. After this, hopefully these studios look at animation as a way to tell stories as opposed to just something that can be used when we are, wanting to make a movie for kids. Oh, it's a kid's movie. It's got to be an animated movie. No, that's not the case. You can have adult themes, adult moments with emotional weight like we see with Miles and Gwen, and I didn't even really dive into the parental aspect of their characters and those relationships, how they factor in to the buildup of these heroes. I'm someone who loves family relationships in movies, whether it's a brotherly relationship, aunt and uncle, mom and dad, grandma and grandpa. We could go on for days. I love the way that that's handled with not one, but two characters in this movie. 3 characters, if you include Peter B. Parker, and they balance those things so well. But what the animators and directors, writers, producers, absolutely, but what the animators do in those moments is they bring them to life in such distinct ways to where the color palette is reflecting the emotions of the characters that we are feeling. The art style changes. The background changes. I mean, they're splitting the screen in half, whether it's vertical landscape and showing a close-up of one character, a wide shot of the other. And even, the moment where Miles is swinging through New York and they split the screen and you see one angle, the other angle, it's like, they're doing things here. They'll pop up a graphic. If someone uses a word that may not make sense to kids, or it's a phrase that, you don't know very well, it'll pop it up in the corner, just like in a comic book, and describe what that means. Now, it's very brief. You will miss it. You may miss it. But if you don't, that's just another thing to add on to the story that they're telling, and another way to get viewers engaged and keep them engaged as it goes. Because even in what some young kids will consider the dull moments where there's a lot of dialogue happening, Spider-Man's always swinging, somebody's always jumping, you're upside down on the top of a building having a conversation, and they're not going to care as much about the emotion in that scene, but you're going to care, and they're going to look at that sequence and go, wow, I've never seen anything like this in a movie. And I felt that way all the way through. Like, every moment, every act, every scene, I've never seen this in a movie. The only thing close is Into the Spider-Verse. So before I give you my score, if you want to support this channel, come back for reviews next week. We got Transformers and The Flash. I'll be seeing both of those movies. Drop that like, come back, leave a comment. Let's give a score. Across the Spider-Verse is an absolute triumph. Miles and Gwen are incredible characters, and the film is a testament to how powerful animation can be. The visuals seamlessly weave with the story to create a beautiful experience. This is how you make a comic book movie. I docked 1 point from story because of the cliffhanger. I docked 1 point from pacing, just because of how quick it will be for some people. But you never know upon rewatch, man, how things could change, and I'm going to have to decide which Spider-Verse movie I like more. I've talked enough. Austin, it's time to end the video. I don't want to. I don't want to end it. Fine, I'll see you soon.